Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, which is a novel about the emotional turmoil of adolescence, the powerful bonds of family, and the bright promise of freedom.
So the story is narrated by Cam Bailey, who's a 15-year-old girl that lives in Enugu, Nigeria, with her father Eugene, her mom Beatrice, and her older brother Jaja. Purple Hibiscus tells a story of the young Nigerian girl and her family living through these times of war and conflict within religion and other political problems that will get touched upon later. But throughout the novel, the author is wrestling between themes of identity, freedom, oppression, love, and tradition as she's exploring the tensions within her own family and the country of Nigeria as a whole. So for the background, religion and belief are central in the novel, and the plot begins with descriptions of Papa's religious beliefs, which were modeled by Catholic missionaries and are really, really strict. And then down the storyline, the religion begins to cause a lot more problems in the novel, not even just through religious aspects, but because the kids are growing up and being more exposed to the real world and branching out with the rest of their family, and they're starting to understand that Papa took his beliefs so seriously and they were grown up so harshly because of it. So things start to unfold and they understand more of who they really are as a person without being possessed by their Papa. In Purple Hibiscus, Papa Nuku represents the indigenous culture, specifically Igbo land, but Papa Nuku is the only one who actually practices the Igbo culture traditions because Papa Eugene has kept the kids so restricted and far out of the rest of his family because of the way he believes differently than everybody else. So down here we just have a map of Nigeria just as a whole to show the different religions in different spots, and then it just gives a layout of where their family is and where the rest of the family is. And then here we have a chart of the different beliefs and religions in Nigeria, and then the Nigerian flag, which is really sentimental to most families in Nigeria because the green and white represent their own culture and everything.
Christians were brought up with economic paralysis. We've been cheated when we received the gospel at an early age. Early missionaries, and they handed it over to us, and we are brainstormed, we are also brainwashed, and we are grown up with that mentality.
Another important aspect of background in Purple Hibiscus is the military and government feud going on during the story. There's a lot of violence in Nigeria due to disagreements in politics and the military. They tended to be very separated in and around the 1980s, causing dangerous areas of the country and, again, violence. Something I thought was important to include to help you better understand the violence in Nigeria's military and politics is the explanation of a coup d'etat. As I read on Wikipedia, the definition of a coup is the removal or seizure of a government and its powers. Typically, it is the military and/or government officials overthrowing the country's government. This was going on during the time that Purple Hibiscus was taking place.
Domestic violence in Nigeria. In Nigeria, there is a cultural belief that it is considered socially acceptable to hit a woman and punish a spouse. Domestic violence in Nigeria is widespread and shows no sign of lessening. It is reported that 1 in every 3 respondents admitted to experiencing domestic abuse by their partner by the Clean Foundation. The survey they conducted also showed nationwide that domestic violence keeps increasing, going from 21% to 30% in the span of the last 3 years. Domestic violence can take place in many ways, such as sexual, physical, verbal, emotional, and mental. The most common ways of domestic violence in Nigeria is rape, acid attacks, molestation, and corporal punishment. Domestic abuse in the family. In the book, Kimberly, the main character, experiences severe abuse in her home environment. Her father is a well-respected businessman who physically abuses her mother, her, and her older brother by beating them into submission. We cleaned up the trickle of blood which trailed as if someone had carried a leaking jar of red watercolor all the way downstairs Jaja scrubbed while I wiped. The significance of this quote shows that Papa had just beat Mama, and it was almost immediate instinct that the children go clean up the blood, almost like it was a regular occurrence.
Literature is my religion, and I've learned from literature that all of us human beings are flawed. And I've also learned that all of us have the possibility of redemption. We can remake the world. I believe that. We can remake masculinity. We can change it from this narrow cage that traps men into a humane idea. We can expect men to be vulnerable. We can give men the language of emotion. We can teach men to respect the autonomy of women. We can encourage little boys to cry. We can create a world where women can be full sexual beings, where slut shaming never happens, where women face no backlash for being bold or for being angry or for being aggressive or for being ambitious. We can create a world where there are many women in real positions of power, because representation matters. We can make a world where we all collectively support those human beings whose bodies do the difficult and physical work of ensuring that the human species does not become extinct. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and I really hope that she lives in a world that's better than the world that I live in. Thank you.
So the question is, what does Aunt Ifeoma actually mean? First off, I said that she's a sense of freedom to the kids, and her house is an escape from their abusive everyday lives. I said this because when they went there, they weren't around their dad, who abuses them as much, and it was an escape for them. They didn't have to be abused every day, and they could get their minds off their strong religion in school. Next, I said her house represents happiness because she is so carefree and kind to the kids, which they aren't used to. I said this because they're used to harsh environments. Their mom is kind of like shy, I guess, and she doesn't really talk. And their aunt's house is very like loud, and happiness just fills the house. So I feel that this house to them represents happiness and somewhere they can be joyful. Next, I said the kids have a sense of friendship and companionship because they have their cousins, and at home they are pretty much isolated. I said this because the kids literally have no one at their house. They have their mom, their dad, and their driver pretty much, and each other, which is not really much like, I guess, people to hang out with. So I know that they really opened up when they went there. Jaja, for example, really connected to one of his cousins. He started gardening and really used his time there to open up. It was really good for the kids, and I know overall Aunt Ifeoma means like happiness, freedom, friendship, and she's very important to the kids. The next question was, why is she so important? So based off my slide, I kind of said that she exposed them to friendship, freedom, and a different sense of happiness. But overall, I feel that she is most important because she gave the kids an identity. At home, the kids are really quiet and focus on their school and religion and know not to speak out because of their dad's punishments. But at their aunt's house, they were really opening up, doing things they never do. It gave them really new personalities, I feel. I really didn't know the characters, Kimberly and Jaja, before they went to their aunt's house. But after, it felt like they were new characters. They were doing things they never did before. And it felt like it was a new part of the book. She showed the kids a different lifestyle, and she was really important to them. So her being important to them, to me, makes her such an important character in the book. About the author. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie grew up in Enugu, Nigeria. She is one of 6 children and studied pharmacy and medicine at the University of Nigeria before coming to the US and studying communication and political science. She has written several award-winning novels, including Purple Hibiscus, Americana, and Half of a Yellow Sun. She is a worldwide humanitarian who fights for women's rights, equal education, and global responsibility of actions. Her TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, is one of the most viewed TED Talks of all time. She has been honored all over the world for her fight for feminism and how her writing and speech is able to inspire so many people. She is able to give a perspective and a story that is so unique and valued to this world.
The single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. Of course, Africa is a continent full of catastrophes. The immense ones, such as the horrific rapes in Congo, and depressing ones, such as the fact that 5,000 people apply for one job vacancy in Nigeria. But there are other stories that are not about catastrophe, and it is very important, it is just as important to talk about them. I've always felt that it is impossible to engage properly with a place or a person without engaging with all of the stories of that place and that person. The consequence of the single story is this: it robs people of dignity. It makes our recognition of our equal humanity difficult. It emphasizes how we are different rather than how we are similar.
The family at the end of the novel. At the end of the novel, the family was having a harder time taking the abuse Papa was giving them, and they were also finding out more and more. Kambili found out Papa's tea actually had poison in it, and that's why the love sips hurt so bad. Jaja, Kambili's brother, was growing very angry towards the end of the novel and wanted to stop his father, so he ended up fighting him and beat him to death. Part of the reason Jaja is so violent can be linked to how his father treated him growing up. Nigeria after the novel. At the beginning of the novel, Nigeria was being taken over by a coup. This was 1985, and a few years later that happened again in 1993. In 1994, slightly after the novel ended, the National Democratic Coalition was formed by Nigerian Democrats. They called on the current leader to step down because a new leader won the presidential election that happened in the past year. And right now, Nigeria is still being run by a president and not a coup.
The relationship between the cultural context and the symbolic language of the text. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie uses many symbols and symbolic language in her novel Purple Hibiscus. An explanation of these symbols will lead readers to a deeper understanding of the message of the author. There are many different symbols in Purple Hibiscus, like palm, figurines, hibiscus, and tea, which are all used to represent some of the characters in the novel and used to connect them in the literature form to the outside effects of the government and cultural beliefs that are imposed upon them. So many of these different symbols and items that were seen throughout the story represent a small part of each character, and these stories that come with each of the items can be seen on a wider level as a similar story to many of the people living through this time in this place. This story of Purple Hibiscus is a unique one, but it is also has many of the same symbols of freedom, identity, and religion as many people have when they were going through this time.